I knew something was off the second my tires touched that gravel. It sparkled. My old dirt road never sparkled. It was always muddy, rutted, the kind of path that chews up city shoes and keeps strangers away. But now, it looked like the entrance to a luxury resort. And I hadn't ordered any upgrades. Name's Travis. I've owned 72 acres outside of a quiet Oregon valley for over 10 years. I call it a farm, even if it's mostly hayfields. A big red barn I used to fix up vintage bikes, and a cedar cabin I built with my buddy Jake. Every summer I escape the city grind hall, out my tools and my golden retriever Hazel, and spend a few dusty months doing honest work and remembering who I am. But this winter got hectic. Work kept me in the city longer than usual. 2 months, actually, the longest I'd ever been away without setting foot on the land. Last time that happened, I was laid up with a broken leg, and even then, Jake swung by to feed the barn cats. So when I finally made it back and saw golf flags stabbing into my pasture like neon spears, I thought I was dreaming. But it wasn't a dream. There were sand traps where my vegetable beds used to be. Ball washers screwed into my apple trees, and right in front of my cabin, which now had a brand new padlock, stood a prefab pro shop with cursive letters welcoming folks to Pinebrook Links. It hit me like a truck. Someone, and not just any someone, but a damn HOA had built a golf course on my land. A real golf course. 9 holes, cart paths, speakers in trees playing soft jazz. I parked beside what used to be my carrot's heart pounding, and Hazel gave a confused little whine from the back seat. My instincts screamed to rip everything out. Flags, stakes, maybe drag that pro shop into the creek. But I knew better. Anger gets you arrested. Evidence gets you justice. So I pulled out my phone and started recording. Then came the icing on the insanity cake. 2 men in a red golf cart, rolling toward me like they belonged here. One of them, silver-beard and aviators, had the gall to say, "Course isn't open to the public today, sir." I stared at him. Good thing I'm not the public. I own this land. That's when the other one chimed in, said the HOA had reviewed county records and saw my land marked as non-primary residence. Apparently, that gave them the right to expand amenities for the neighborhood across the ridge. I asked him if he actually believed squatter logic made it legal. He just shrugged and said, "I'm just here to play 9 before lunch." Yeah, that happened. I locked Hazel in the truck, gave her a treat to stay calm, and called 911. 15 minutes later, 2 sheriff cruisers rolled up deputies Carson and Flores. I gave them the full tour. Ball washers, irrigation lines tapped into my well golf carts in my barn. They looked around like they'd stepped into a legal twilight zone. Then, Glenda showed up clipboard and all smiling like she was about to win Realtor of the Year. She tried handing over HOA paperwork. Carson flipped through it and said, "Ma'am, this isn't a deed. This is just your HOA's internal notes." Glenda blinked. "Our attorney said we could establish quiet title after 90 days of unoccupied use." I stepped forward and said, "It's been 60, and unoccupied doesn't mean abandoned. It means I work my butt off in the city to keep this place." The deputies told her to vacate the property pending investigation. She started protesting until they mentioned criminal trespass. That shut her up real fast, but I wasn't done. I called Jake, told him to bring the drone, and 2 cups of strong coffee. We recorded everything: aerial shots, turf damage, modified electrical work in my barn, where they'd plugged in their golf carts. That footage ended up being gold. The DA loved it. And the very next morning, 3 board members, Cyrus, Glenda, and their president Everett, got cuffed and loaded into a cruiser right in front of news cameras. You should have seen Everett's face, like the barn personally betrayed him. Then came Dorian Slick, HOA lawyer, in a black coat, smelling like cigars and confidence. He offered to buy the land. Twice the assessed value, he said. I laughed in his face. You built a golf course first, and now you want to buy the land it's sitting on. No thanks. He tried pitching a revenue-sharing lease. I pointed at the barn. That's not passive income. That's my livelihood. So he threatened a long lawsuit. Said I'd spend years in court. I told him I had time. The truth, I didn't. I had bills, student loans, and a mortgage in the city. But I also had principal and backup. Tilda, a neighbor from the far cul-de-sac, handed me a flash drive. It had every HOA meeting on it, and in one of them, Everett literally said, "Don't worry, he'll come around, or cash out." Well, I didn't cash out. We pushed back hard. Civil suits, trespass, nuisance, theft of utilities. My lawyer, Leah, was a pit bull in heels, and she went to town. Meanwhile, the judge offered the board a deal, pled guilty, pay restitution, and served 200 hours of supervised community service on my land. And that, my friends, was a sight to behold. Everett spreading compost in designer gloves. Cyrus manhandling a walk-behind tiller like a drunk cowboy. Glenda wiping sweat from her scarf while planting new cedars. Jake and I just leaned on the fence, sipping lemonade, watching karma do its thing. The new HOA board, Tilda, was elected president, even showed up to help. They apologized. Genuinely. Said they never wanted this. We ended up settling the civil case too, but I refused any gag order. They paid me every cent for damages, plus funded a local chicken rescue program I'd joked about starting. Now the flags are gone. The fields are golden again. Hazel chases butterflies where putting greens used to be. And at the front of the lane, there's a sign. High Ridge Acres. Private property. Underneath it, a metal sculpture Jake and I made from epoxy-bonded golf balls. Not a middle finger like we joked about, but a twisty, whimsical spiral lit with fairy lights. And if you ask me what victory feels like, it's watching the sunset from my rebuilt porch swing, knowing I stood my ground, knowing I didn't let a bunch of entitled board members rewrite the rules of ownership, and maybe, just maybe, knowing that somewhere out there, the next HOA with bright ideas and bulldozers is thinking twice. But hey, what do you think? Should they have gone to jail? Or was community service justice enough? Ever had an HOA cross the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one.